thing we want to talk about is waste, recycling, circular economy. You're in the nation's 5th largest city, a progressive council to boot. Individuals in the tie still under a progressive liberal administration. We are going to do sustainability. And I then have a conversation with our public works department. These are the ladies and gentlemen within the city purview that have responsibility for materials management. And they were excited. But again, they had no expertise nor cover and support on how to do things like sustainability or circular economy. Therefore, we, along with these panelists, community experts, bound it together and set the foundational framework of transforming Phoenix towards a circular economy. We banned the word trash and waste inside the city of Phoenix vernacular, and we replaced it with resources. We helped shift the sustainability mentality that there is no such thing as waste, only resources. And by changing that association, we change the value with that, and that's where we are today. The city of Phoenix is moving full tilt on this. They're working in partnership with the university. We've done decent work, and we're proud of that. But we've hit, I'd be honest, a bit of a crossroads in some of these areas. We've done good work, but we need help. That is where you come in. So let's tee it up here. We're going to have, instead of introductions, which we're going to get to in a brief moment, we're going to start with lightning round icebreakers, starting out with our great panels. If you were a breakfast cereal, what kind of breakfast cereal would you be?
Life.
Life, like it.
Oatmeal in little pouches.
Oh, oatmeal in the little pouches. Okay, just like plain, or do we have a flavor?
Brown sugar.
Brown sugar, you betcha. Okay.
Furlough.
Furlough. Good to know, David. Definitely a loopy guy. That's really going to work out. So now that breakfast cereal is out of the way, let's start from the right to the left, and let's give us a little introduction about who you are.
Hi, my name is Annie Huickel, and I'm a marketing specialist at Stryker's Sustainability Solutions. We're located just a little bit from here in Tempe. We are a leading provider of reprocessed and remanufactured single-use medical devices. In my role specifically, I'm in charge of our internal and external sustainability initiatives, and I'll get into that, I'm sure, a little later. But our industry is very exciting. It's challenging for sure, and I'm excited to be here today to share it with you.
Hi, I'm Trevor Root. So I grew up in a tiny rural town in southern Idaho on a farm. So I didn't have my first trash bin until I was probably 18, my first recycle bin until I was 23. But my dad worked for a recycling company my whole life. So every week we'd go in with a bag full of aluminum cans, trade them for $5, and go home, right? So when I first 23 years old, we got our first recycling can. We throw in all our cans in this big bin, someone would haul it off, and we wouldn't get any money. I was like, that's not recycling, that's theft. So then after I'm 23, I started working for a bunch of engineering companies, I think I'm 5 now. Been all over the world doing engineering, multiple buildings, some of the biggest solar power plants, some of the biggest power plants, coal ash. And now I'm in HDR engineering, one of the biggest in the world, specializes in healthcare facilities, and especially sustainability. So it's an important concept from the top down, CEO. Every building, we want to practice what we preach. So all of our buildings, we have compost and recycling. We also make sure the buildings we design, the owners know that recyclability and sustainability is an option for them.
Trevor, thanks. So we've got the medical field, we've got a building and built environment field, and David, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is David Hertzberg. I owned and operated Sonoran Waste Disposal. Sonoran Waste Disposal was created in 2005 from scratch. I did turn to my brand new wife and said I'd like to leave my very lucrative corporate job, and I bought a garbage truck. I had never driven a garbage truck. I'd never driven a truck. And I bought a garbage truck because I thought this was going to be a money maker. In 2005, I mortgaged our house and maxed out our credit cards and bought 1 truck and 10 bins and went to work. Turns out that when I took my first load to the transfer station, I noticed that there was mounds and mounds of assets sitting in piles, and that's how I saw it. I sat there and go, we're throwing all this away, and every piece of material in there is a virgin piece of material just mixed together. So we changed our business model within about 3 months of operation with my one truck, 10 bins, and turned into the premier waste diversion company for 12 years. Our most notable accomplishment is ASU itself. In 2015, the waste company that was entrenched in ASU, giving them approximately $1 million a year in untethered donations, is Waste Management. They also agreed to get you to zero waste by 2015. In 2015, you were at 27%. So that's the deal on this, because they're a landfill company. I came in saying, we're not going to be a landfill company. We're going to give you resources and create an economy in order to leverage your waste to get to your goals of zero waste. In the 2 years that I did ASU, we went from 27% to I think 42%. I did sell last year in August to Republic Services, who realized the value of waste diversion. They couldn't do it internally, so they had to buy it. So they bought my company, and they're now actively doing all the programs that we put together. So my company was the nuts and bolts and the ground floor of material handling and waste diversion and the startup of a circular economy.
Thank you for all of you. So let's go right to kind of the business model framework here. So recycling at its core, I think most of you will agree, like this is a nice thing. I feel good when I say it's good for the earth. But at the end of the day, this is also an economy and a material resource flow conversation. So like any of our panelists, right, this is open to all of you, round robin. Do you have any thoughts and insight internal to your organizations or previous ones? How are you making what is the business case of things just starting base either recycling or setting the stage here for sustainability within your enterprises?
Go ahead.
So I guess, so if we're not making money, our company's not sustainable. But if we're not saving the environment, then our company's also not sustainable. So I guess everything you buy, everything when you look around the room, there's all the metal materials. Everything in this room has value. Some of it has a lot of value, especially when you talk aluminum and steel. These are metals that have a high carbon footprint. So to produce the material, it takes a ton of carbon, but to reuse the material obviously offsets that carbon. So it's got an environmental benefit, and it's also cheaper than buying brand new steel and importing that from somewhere else. So I think that the concept is just being wholly sustainable, both from an economic and an environmental perspective.
So for an organization, right, think about some medical devices. So would anyone here like to share needles with somebody else and call that reuse and recycle? Well, maybe, maybe not. So I'd be interested, some medical devices, this might not be an intuitive thing for some folks. You mean you used the scalpel on him and now you're going to use it on her? How does that work out in practice, and why is this a valuable asset and strategy to Stryker?
Sure. So I'm just going to give an overview of what reprocessing and remanufacturing of medical devices is. So you have a device that is created by an original manufacturer, and they label it as single use. So that means the doctor can use it on a patient, and then they're expected to put it in the landfill, throw it away. So what Stryker does is we go into the hospitals and say, whoa, don't throw that away. That's very valuable. We can clean it, we can sterilize it, throw it in our bin. So tons and tons of these devices get thrown into our bin, and then they get shipped to our production facility where we break them completely apart, we reverse engineer them, we clean them, we sterilize them, we function test every single device that comes into our building and goes out of our building, and then we can sell it back to the hospital for a fraction of that price. So not only are the hospitals and our customers realizing extreme savings, which in the current healthcare climate are desperately needed, but they're also diverting that waste that would have ultimately landed up in the landfill. So it's crazy to think that these devices were just going to the landfill without any cause, because the main concern for these hospitals was infection. And so Stryker can prove that we can clean and sterilize these devices to where they're substantially equivalent to the original manufacturers. So that's kind of just a high level of what reprocessing does.
All right, so sustainability, circular economy is not just a nice thing, it is actually a proven smart business model, a strategy by how an organization can operate. Let's turn maybe a little bit towards a risk issue, maybe an exposure, be it brand management. David, I'd like you to take this one. So waste management, they were, and we're not pointing fingers, but they were the previous strategic partner of this university, right? The nation's most progressive university on sustainability. They were not able to perform previously on that. Did you see that, if you were in their shoes, is that a risk issue? Is it a reputation? And what was your brand difference of not only selling the service, but maybe mitigating risk issues and exposure from making commitments to organizations like ASU?
Okay, so first of all, Waste Management is not a bad company. They're a phenomenon. They're a $15 billion corporation that moves the most waste in the world. They're a for-profit company. They're a publicly traded company. Half of your parents' 401ks have Waste Management. So it's a significant company, but it has a business plan. Its business plan is primarily landfills. Good or bad, that is their business plan. So what they do is all their profit is, I'm going to take your waste, I'm going to put it in a landfill, I'm going to charge you a certain amount, keep your costs low, and you're going to control your waste costs. All done. Your president has a completely different view of that. So what I did is went in and said, you don't want to put it in the landfill, and this was their risk. Their business model was landfill, yet they sold themselves as I'm going to be an alternative to a landfill. There's a huge disconnect there. How do you be a landfill company and sell yourself as a diversion company? Well, it turns out when you talk to a bunch of educated people who run a college, they can see that delta, and they saw it very clearly. So that was they took the risk, they sold themselves as one, even though they were another. A competitor, much smaller, like 1/1000th of their size, came in and said, I'm going to give you what you want. Not because I had this amazing idea. I didn't own a landfill. It turns out you have to be a diversion company if you don't own a $22 million landfill. So make your decisions on a business decision. So their risk was to present themselves one way. Their cost was someone presented themselves more genuine. I won that contract. So whatever you're planning on doing in business, make sure you're pure in your messaging and what you plan on accomplishing, because people will see through it.
Excellent. So changing gears a little bit here, now moving more towards an aspect of circular economy and policy. So you are major players in your respective areas, major medical enterprise, major development and construction, a major hauler operator in diversion enterprise. Do you consider yourselves as big players? Are there other sectors that help create a circular economy from a high level picture? And what are some of those to you? Maybe some of the more important ones.
You're talking globally, states-wise, locally?
Good question. Let's go ahead and keep it for the frame of this reference. Let's keep it domestically within the United States.
Sure, so I'll take this first. So when we have a device that comes in and it's either met its life cycle where we can't reprocess it anymore because it's met its number of turns, or it's rejected for some reason, it won't plug in and it won't turn on, or cosmetic issue is something that won't be allowed, like there's blood stain on there that won't come off, then we have to reject this device. And so we have this rejected device and we're thinking, well, we don't want to put this in the landfill because we're trying to, divert waste from the landfill. So it's incorporating other recyclers that will work with us, and it gets really tricky because no one really wants to take biohazardous waste, right? So it's been a very long journey to find other companies that will consider this waste and take it to their own manufacturing, shred it up, and then recycle the precious metals and plastics that's within it. But we're trying to be authentic and true to our message, so it's very important to us that we find those other businesses that align with our own values and see the profit in our waste, and that's the only reason why we can make it work.
I would say it's very important for us to know where our materials come from and where they go to understand the whole process. So one of the things I deal with the most is concrete. It's the concrete and the steel is 50% of the carbon footprint of any building. It's one of the most abundant materials in this building and in our built environment. So it consists of cement from a cement manufacturer, rocks, and water. It also consists of fly ash from a coal ash facility, which makes it stronger. So you have to know that the fly ash is coming from Four Corners, New Mexico, and our cement's coming from Nevada. How do you meet those in the middle? Where are they processed? What's the cost of all that transport? How did they get here? The other part is people will say that concrete is 100% recyclable. I still have yet to find the way where you can suck all the water out of it and turn it back into cement and rocks. What it really means, 100% recyclable, means that we can crush it up and turn it into a bunch of rocks. So thinking about it in the big picture of those two issues is where's it coming from and where's it going? What are some other options along the way?
So interesting. We heard kind of, from the medical perspective, the reincorporation loop, right? When we think about resource reincorporation, hearing a little bit about from Trevor the upstream supply chain, as we might refer to it. Where are things coming from? David, from your perspective, and uniquely from a downstream and a disposition perspective, all right, so we've got waste management, we've got Republic. What are these other sectors or holes not empowering a circular economy, or what's important for us to consider?
Well, let me give an example of some of the best local circular economy, and then we can kind of talk a little bit about the holes. Who's from here? Who remember, okay, so you guys aren't that young. It wasn't that long ago that you'd be driving down the road and it'd have cracks in it, and it'd be loud, and now all of a sudden you're driving down the road. Has anybody been driving down the 101 and it's been really loud road noise and then it just went silent? Does anybody know why? Yes, a few of you know. Why?
Vulcanized rubber roads.
Right, where does that rubber come from?
Cycle tires.
Right, who does that?
That's a good question.
Crumb Rubber, that's right in Apache Junction, literally does the entire west of the Mississippi. Every single pound of Crumb Rubber comes from Crumb Rubber organization sitting right in Apache Junction. They cryo break it with make it real cold. They cryo break it, it's pure rubber. They put it in the roads, and now all of a sudden we have quiet roads that are elasticized and take the heat and expansion and the cold, and now all of a sudden we have a better use for that rubber. United Fibers, sitting in Chandler. Every mattress in every prison, guess where the mattress is made from? United Fibers. Why? Because they take all the textiles that they buy from all those containers you put your clothes in, they shred them up and they make a mattress out of it, they give it to a prisoner. It's a great reuse and recycle of materials that really aren't thought of as recyclable or reusable. So the idea what we're missing is to take a homogenized material that you don't think is recycled and stop thinking, hey, what can I do with that chair? I gotta make another chair. No, what can I do that's not a chair with that chair? It's the creative thinking to start making new products out of old waste streams that we've kind of just thrown away and thought of as not valuable. How do we put a value onto every single piece of material that's in that landfill? So that's the hole we're missing, because we're stuck in a rut. We're actually stuck in a large hole. It's called landfill. We got to break away from that mindset.
Thank you. So you just heard kind of three major components there. Upstream, supply chain acquisition, utilization and repurpose, and then concurrent to that, but pull back in on the loop, right, the disposition and re-engineering of resources. Did you hear any of them refer to these fiscal items as waste products?
We have 700-year landfills within 50 miles of us. We have 10 within 75 miles of us. You'll never see this number, but in a production way, it's $17 a ton to dump straight into a landfill. You go to a transfer station, which is where you dump it and they pick it up and haul it out, and the negotiated rate that you don't see is about $28 to $32 a ton. Somehow you have to convince a company to not pay $1.40 a yard to have their trash taken away and give them your waste. These are real numbers that are kind of hard to conceptualize, but understand that a ton is 2,000 pounds of material I can get rid of like that for $17. Here's some challenges with recycling. Movement of material. Town of Tempe budgets about $9 a ton just to move their waste. They haven't even disposed of it yet. Okay, so if you want to move material, you have to deal with collection, transportation, processing, and then you get it. Now you can start in business. We haven't even gotten in business yet. So the words you're going to use when you're developing your businesses, if you plan on making a product, is feedstock. This is the industry term for I want homogenized material in order to make something out of it. So you have to somehow convince someone to give you the feedstock that you need to make your business that has to be profitable, sustainable, and scalable. It's really cool to make something that fits on the top of a table and works once. That's not a business. A business is something that's scalable and profitable. In order to do that, you need a constant feed of the material you need to make that particular object. In order to get that, you have to make a more competitive environment than $17 a ton. The Paradise Valley School District pays $1.42 a yard to remove their trash. When I had a front load truck, that's the guy that does this. I couldn't do it for under $2.50 a yard. I couldn't even turn on the truck for that. That's how competitive the market is to pick up this material and throw it in a hole. So your idea has to actually overcome that before you even get a material to make your product out of. And this isn't a naysay, this is just a challenge. We did it. You have to make your product so profitable that you can make it so advantageous that your producers of waste are willing to give you that material. And please don't say I'll get a grant. That's like taking a shot at a bar and then the bottle's empty. So you get one shot, feel good, and you're better. The next day, you got nothing in that. So don't, I'm going to get a grant. Don't do, I'm going to do a nonprofit. Nonprofits are profits. They just disseminate the money with whatever they're trying to solve or the people they're trying to pay. Does everybody know the NFL is nonprofit? So, I mean, did you know Mayo Clinic's nonprofit?
$18 billion nonprofit?
Yeah, it was big. I mean, trust me, the president of Mayo Clinic, I'll take his salary any day and twice on Sunday. So at the end of the day, profitable, scalable, sustainable, and then you have to be so profitable that you get your feedstock out of a very efficient process that already puts that in the landfill.
Thank you. So I want to pivot here a little bit more to policies. So we heard some issues with regard to, frankly, the cold water business model, picking the stuff up, having access to material goods is a very big piece. Hearing some interesting counsel, right? How do we deal with upstream original equipment manufacturers who do not want this to happen? That's in their business model, to sell more widgets. They can't sell widgets, that eats into their revenue. You're eating their lunch. So, and you're experts, so they can give their opinion, right? I'm interested in their opinions about what are some policies that you might, if you had a magic wand, because I think this helps frame the context for you of what works and what doesn't, to help empower not even a zero waste, but really a circular economy. It could be take back. It could be laws about planned obsolescence, right? Are there laws and policies right now in a framework base that you might want to see altered to empower zero waste and circular economy solutions?
Well, I think my first wish would be for the OEMs and us to play nice in the sandbox. That would make our lives a whole lot easier and really help us deal with this medical waste issue. Just a statistic, if you guys didn't know, if healthcare was a country, it would rank number 13 in the world for greenhouse gas emissions. So this is an industry that has a lot of issues and a lot of opportunity to do good, but you know, it's taking care of the patient first. So there's a lot of stigma around patient health and safety. So it's making sure that these devices meet those standards, but also let's go beyond that and make them sustainable, have them produce out of green products, or have an end-of-life plan set in place for these devices instead of ultimately going up to the landfill. So a policy around what we categorize biohazardous waste as would be like a revamp of that, because right now it's very strict, and we've proven that just because it's biohazardous waste doesn't mean it needs to go to the landfill. There's other things that you can do with it.
So coming from the military side, the military is very passionate about environment. You'll get on a phone call with the general and he'll say it's got to be net zero, LEED platinum. So they implement policies such as making things LEED certified by rule, which you don't see in the private sector or in the public sector. So I wish all of our public projects were required to be LEED or cradle to cradle certified, at least as a starting point. And what that does, LEED in itself, U.S. Green Building Council, they set up a framework, checklist, and point system for something to get certified as green. But the policy or the checklists aren't necessarily that great as if you just go through, run through the checklist, but it gets the discussion started between the engineers, the contractor, the owner, people that are going to be sweeping the floors. You want them all in a room to discuss what's the most sustainable way we can design this building or do this infrastructure project. What are we thinking about? What aren't we thinking about? So I wish that discussion started early on in every single public project we did.
What about you, David? What about from a policy? To empower a circular economy? You
So-
gave us some cold water about pricing. What do you think?
Colin, I cannot dream. I have been in the trenches too long to dream about policy. So I'm going to give you some things that can happen. We could stop permitting landfills tomorrow. That's not a legislative move. That's a county move. We could literally create artificial demand for something else. You could artificially raise the price of an already way too low, because we're not paying the true cost of landfill. $17 isn't the true cost of landfill, because my children are back there. They're gonna pay for the landfill, so we're just pushing the cost off to them. So we could stop permitting landfills and stop permitting, there she is, expansion of landfills. Hey, I want to build another cell. We're done. You just made every landfill owner the richest person on the planet. Why is that good? Because in 40 years, they're done. You got to think that far out. Here's the other thing. You wouldn't know this. Every single ton of trash that's put in a landfill since 1999 had to pay a quarter. Pay a quarter. 1/4 to the ADEQ. It was a voter initiative. I believe it was 1999. Fact check me. Quarter goes into the state budget for the ADEQ to incentivize, encourage, and financially incentivize recycling and reuse. They have never seen a dime of it. Our legislature, every time it hits $2 million, they sweep it. You don't know what sweep it means? They just take it and put it in the general fund. Voter initiative, revenue raised by me. I paid the quarter. Actually, you paid the quarter when I picked up your trash from ASU. You paid that quarter every ton, and I picked up a lot of tons. And Waste Management picks up more, and Republic picks up more. They all pay the quarter. Millions and millions of dollars just put in the general fund. I want that money. I want that money to give to you in 0% loans or low interest loans, so you can take your idea that you develop and actually create a real company. Those are two things that we could do today that would rock the central economy, the circular economy deal. And I want to put one other thing: 25 jobs to one, recycling to landfill. EPA, every report they come out, they do a jobs report. 25 jobs are created in the recycling for every job that's created in landfill. So this is not a D and an R argument. This is an economic argument. So I'm not going to create policy. Let's just take the ones that exist and give them what is rightfully ours in order to do these circular economy ideas.
Love it. Now let's change gears again to actually try and maybe understand what are you solving for. So certainly your concepts and ideas should have a cogent business model around them, but what are you really solving for when you think about a circular economy? So if we're not putting stuff in a hole, sometimes we call that diversion. We're diverting stuff away from the big hole. Normally, that is calculated in weight, tons, as you would have heard. However, are there other indicators or rationales or screens through which you can think through of a sustainability lens that might matter to a circular economy? I'll be interested to see if any of our city towns have some thoughts on this. What do we need to be solving for? Is it simply a waste issue? I'll give you an example. Let's pretend this was a plastic. It is plastic. A disposable plastic now. Has everyone heard of lightweight? So if you take a normal plastic bottle, you used to take about 8,000 of those per ton, and now it takes something like 22,000 16-ounce plastic bottles to equal the same ton. They're lightweight materials, you're getting more volume. So are we solving for volume and weight? Are we solving for carbon? That's on a life cycle analysis, perhaps we can think about that. Are we solving simply for financial value? Is it a combination of all of those things if you want to take into consideration? So what are you solving for? What do we need to solve for in these capacities?
Well, our customers, they come to us and say, what value can you add to us? Yeah, we get that you divert our waste and you save us money, but what else beyond that? So we are right now, we're still going to focus on financial sustainability for them. That will always be a part of our core. And then environmental sustainability. But now we're going into patient care sustainability. How can we as a company make the doctors, the surgeons, the nurses deliver better value to their customers, which is the patient? So we are working with our customers to talk about, okay, what can you do with this financial sustainability that we've given you, this lump sum of money that you've saved from buying our devices instead of new ones? What can you do with that to make patient care better? And we're seeing that they can supply education to their nursing staff to just keep on development, or they can buy this new communication tower in their OR to deliver better outcomes for their surgery. So it's helping us, it's working with our customers to figure out what value they want to see from us and how we can help them make their lives easier and their patients' lives easier.
What are you solving for?
So I think the three main things I've seen in all the research is that you look at greenhouse gases as it all boils down to greenhouse gas, whether it's waste heat, waste energy. At some point, you're polluting the environment through a greenhouse gas. The other was preservation of virgin materials. And the last one is financial success. So recycling takes care of the virgin materials issue, but it doesn't always take care of the greenhouse gas issue. And then, so circular economy is where I see you're solving the greenhouse gas issue at the same time as solving the financial issue. So I think one of the great things about being in here in this room, in this city, this university right now, is that it could be one of the most financially impactful weekends of your life. We're in a first in the U.S. type of situation right now with the city and the ASU. There's so much potential to make a ton of money doing circular economy. There's so much money in our landfills, in the environment, in the buildings. It's not just to preserve the environment, it's also for financial success.
So, we screwed you. My generation and generation prior, we screwed you bad. And we continue to stick it to you. And it's for short-term gain. And understanding what I solve it for them. My personal passion is for them and for you. Because I made my money. I'm doing great. I'm going to do awesome. In fact, I sold a waste company. I'm starting new companies. It's great. You're going to pay. I'm not going to pay, and my parents won't pay. So what are we solving this for? I'm going to give you an example. Colin, you probably know it better than I do. There's a little town in Oklahoma that is actually next to a landfill. It wasn't their fault. Republic bought the landfill after the fire started 400 feet down. Fire's still burning. The town's looks like Chernobyl, by the way. It's totally empty. There's no one in it anymore. In fact, the next town over is now evacuated. Just the gases that are coming out of this landfill, just seeping out of the ground from this fire 400 feet down. They can't put it out. Fire's not being run by oxygen. It's a different process. They add oxygen. I don't know what happened. Neither did they. So they can't go down and solve this thing. They're trying to pump foam down. They've been doing this for years. By the way, they're like 50 million into solving this problem. I think they bought the thing for 10. Landfills are bad. The other factor is virgin materials. We can cut down all the forests we want until we can't breathe. We can use all the oil we want to make plastics until there's no fish. I mean, you guys have heard this. You saw the climate change. I'm not trying to sell you on why to do this. I actually think the why is the duh. The question is the how. We are a capitalistic society. Don't like that. Don't live here. I am a true capitalist. That is what we're built on, and that is why you are here. Create a company that is profitable, sustainable, and scalable, and you will be participating in the circular economy. That is how we're going to solve it through capitalism. Because at the end of the day, I'm the biggest fan of the Sierra Club, but I'm also not, because we'd be able to burn our trash right now and create power. And that sounds like a terrible idea until you realize that most of that's just 100-year carbon being cycled instead of million-year carbon being pulled up. Everything has an argument for and against it. Just make sure when you're doing this that you're doing it for something that you're impassioned about, because you'll put way more energy into it. And if it's money, great. The more money you make, hopefully the more stuff you'll divert out of the landfill, and the better the circular economy will be. So go after it.
Excellent. So we're going to go back to a lightning round in just a moment, and we're going to ask the panelists what's going to be, as we close it up, their circular economy spirit animal as you go into the evening. But before we do that, I'm going to ask them and remind you to channel this interior incredible passion and energy. We've heard it from them. They're going to be around for a little bit after this. Feel free to bug them. We're going to challenge you. It is not waste. It is a resource. Think about what you are solving for. For whom? It's not the why, it's the how. How do you add shared value to these organizations? Do you also have an understanding of the physics, the model, the marketing, and the opportunity? It is not one nor the other. It is a combination of all of those. So you're going to have a great night and day tomorrow. Make sure to drink an obnoxious amount of caffeine, right? Bring yourself up, get some sleep, chill out for a little bit, eat well, practice a little self-care, come back and solve some of the resource issues that we face today. So let's go back to our panelists. In closing, what is your circular economy spirit animal?
I'm gonna go with sea turtles, so there's no more plastic straws in their noses.
I'm going to go with the sharks. Because they eat all the fishes that have all the plastics in their bodies.
So I'm going to go with a finding that's just been discovered, that the octopus is considered to be one of the most intelligent animals on the planet and uses more resources around them in order to create their own environment and no waste, and they're highly intelligent. So we're going to stay with the ocean theme.
Yeah.
All right, and on that ocean theme, let's make sure we give a big wave to all of our folks and a round of applause for me.